graphing linear equations is what they're called. And those are going to be equations for a line. And I'm going to say it's like the golden form. It's how we want it. It's like the gold standard is going to look like this. Y equals mx plus b. And I know that kind of looks funny. It's a bunch of variables. But we think of y. That is, your y-axis. That's what it's talking about. X is talking about your x-axis. M is what we call the slope. And if anybody has ever been skiing or snowboarding, you might hear somebody say like, hey, I'm going to go hit the slopes, right? It's talking about the side of the mountain you're going down. So this talks about how the line changes. One thing that they say with that is it's the rise over the run. Or you say it's how your y changes versus how your x changes. This is called, that's delta, Greek letter, and it means change, the change in y over the change in x, how y changes versus how x changes. And then this B, I don't know why it's a B, but it stands for the y-intercept. And that means where does it cross this y-axis at? So y-intercept means where it crosses the y-axis at. So again, the y value, the x value, our slope, and our y-intercept. So last year when you guys did graphing linear equations, 7th graders, as you did it as 6th graders, you probably didn't realize how much that equation would give you. So what this would look like is, you might have something like y equals negative 2x plus 4. And with that, we're going to make a table, because anytime you're doing these and you have two variables, right? We have two different variables. That's saying you could graph this. It's going to be the equation for a line, okay? We have two different variables. So I make an XY table, an XY chart. And I kind of look at this as almost like an if-then. If X is this, then Y will be this. And this table is going to give us the points that are going to make up the line. You could pick any numbers that you want for X, because lines go on forever in both directions, so it's eventually going to have those values. Okay? As a rule of thumb, I say you want to have at least 3 points. You could have 2 points, but it's just a bad practice, because 3 points is going to give me a hint on if I made a mistake. Remember, lines are always going to be straight. They're not going to be curved. So with 3 points, I can really tell if I did a good job. And then also a rule of thumb, I would say you want to have a negative. I like to have 0, and then a positive. So to keep things easy, a lot of times I'll go -1, 0, and +1 for my X values. So then I simply have to work it out. I'm substituting in these values for X to figure out what Y is. So for the first one, I'd say -2 times -1. That's what X is. Plus 4. -2 times -1 would be 2, plus 4 makes 6. So this is the first point of my line is -1, 6. So I go -1 and then +6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be right there. Then I'm going to plug 0 in. And it's almost like a recipe, right? You're just plugging in the ingredient, and I have to follow the directions in order for like the cookies to come out right. So -2 times 0 would be 0 plus 4. It's 4. So the second point on my line is 0, 4. And then the third point, you're going to plug it in, -2 times 1 plus 4. So that's -2 plus 4 is going to equal 2. So at 1, 2 would be my third point on my line. And this is saying, you know, it's going to continue in these directions forever and ever and ever. Okay, 7th graders as 6th graders, you definitely did this with Mrs. McClendon. Did 6th graders, did you guys do this last year at all? Okay, so things that we're looking at, things that you're going to know. So this is totally right. This here, right, that is my m. That's the number, that's the coefficient for x. That's our slope. That's the rise over the run. That's how y changes versus how x changes. So our slope in this case is -2, because if we look at this, what's happening each time, the y value is going down 2, right? If I went from one point to the next, it goes down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. And the line would continue to do that, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. It would continue to do that, and it would follow that pattern forever and ever and ever. So our m, our slope, is -2 because it's right there. Our y-intercept, that's b, is 4 because where does it cross at? It crosses at 4. Where x is 0, that's where it's going to cross the y-axis, so 0, 4. Okay? And we'll do a few more of them so you can kind of get the hang of it. Questions on the first one? All right. So let's try y equals 3x minus 5. So again, I'm going to make an xy table. You don't have to do -1, 0, and 1. Again, I like to have a negative, 0, and a positive. I choose those numbers in these problems because it's just not, they're easy numbers to work with. So then I'm going to plug it in. 3 times -1 minus 5. 3 times -1 is going to be minus 5. -8. So that's my first point. -1, -8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plug 0 in. 3 times 0, minus 5, -5. So I got -8, -7, -6, -5. And then if I plug 1 in, 3 times 1 is 3, minus 5 is -2. So 1, -2 would be right there. I could make a table as long as I wanted to, right? You don't have to. I do have the slope, which is 3. This is going up by 3 each time, so I could say, okay, up 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. And you see it's a straight line. It's going forever. I didn't make a perfectly straight line, but those points are straight. It's going to go forever in that direction. So my slope, m, is equal to 3, right? That's the coefficient of x. That's your slope. My y-intercept is -5 because this is where it crosses. That's b. That's your y-intercept. It's where it crosses the y-axis at. One other question that you might be asked sometimes, okay, with something like this. You might see a question that says, is, let's say, pick a number that's not on here, 511 a solution? when it asks you that question, it's saying, is the point 511 going to be on this line? That's what it's asking you if it says that. So what I would do is I would just plug 5 in here, okay? So I'd put it on my table, and then I'd work it out. 3 times 5 is minus 5 is 10. So we just found out the point 510 is going to be on the line. So 510 is on the line, not 511. So no, it's not a solution because our point is 510 versus that said it should be 511. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, let's do one with the fraction. So if I was given y equals, let's say, 2/3 x minus 4. When you're given a fraction, I personally choose different numbers than -1, 0, and 1. I'm still going to do a positive and a negative, but this takes you to be able to think about 2/3 and reason with fractions. So I'm going to think of numbers that are divisible by 3 to use those. And with the size of this graph, realistically, you know, I'm going to say something like maybe 6 would be a good one to use. So I'm going to say -6, 0, and 6. And if you're not sure, you'll see in a second why I chose those numbers. So when I plug it in, I do 2/3 times -6 over 1 minus 4. Well, when I look here, I can simplify this. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. So now 2 times -6 was -4 minus 4, -4, and I'm going down 4 more. I'm at -8. So because I specifically chose 6, I'm going to get a whole number answer, which just makes my life a little bit easier. You could totally do it if you didn't have a whole number, but it's just easier if you can think of it like that. 2/3 times 0, and then minus 4. 2/3 times 0 is going to be 0, minus 4. And then when I'm looking on this one, 2/3 times 6 over 1, we know that's going to be what? Okay, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. 2 times 2 makes
4.
Minus 4 is 0. So then I'm looking, okay, we have -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and -8, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 0, -4, so I'm at 0, -1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll notice about this, again, it's a straight line. We're going to put arrows on both ends. It's going to go forever in each direction. Now here, okay, this slope is unique. My slope is 2/3. What that means is y is changing by 2, x is changing by 3. Rise over run, they're saying rise goes up and down, run goes right and left. So if you look at this, it's going to go up 2, 1, 2, over 3. That's the next point on the line. Up 2, over 3. Up 2, and if I drew the line right, it would be right there, would be the next point. If I go to this point, this says change by y by 2, up 2, over 3. Up 2, over 3. So that's the slope. It's telling you how the line is changing. Again, this is our b. Our y-intercept is -4. Because it crosses at -4 right here, that point 0, -4 is the y-intercept. Last thing that I'm going to put on the video, and then we'll just have a class conversation. This is a positive slope, so sometimes you're going to be asked if the slope is positive or negative. Just like you read words from the left side to the right side, as I'm going from this side to this side, it's going up. That's positive. This first one is a negative slope, and I know we said m is -2, but again, as I go from the left to the right, it's going down. Positive slope, it's going up. So sometimes they're just going to ask you, is the slope positive or negative? You can just look at the line and tell me that. If it's going down from the left to the right, it means it's negative. If it's going up from the left to the right, it means it's positive.